Have you ever been halfway through a project and wondered, should I keep going or am I just wasting my time? Maybe it's a game you've been developing for years. Maybe it's a business idea and you swear if you just keep pushing, maybe it'll work. Or maybe it's something smaller like a new role, a hobby project, or a marketing plan. It's hard, right? Because sometimes that persistence is exactly what you need for something to eventually pay off. But sometimes sticking with the wrong thing is what prevents you from success. Today, we're talking all about when to pivot and when to stick. Let's go. All right. Hello. Welcome to the Goth Boss podcast. I am your host, Kat Burton. I am a games industry coach, workshop leader, advisor, and speaker. I've made games, I've built studios, I've secured funding, and now I've started my own company and podcast to help other leaders, founders, and their teams succeed without burning out. So today we are talking all about one of the trickiest questions you will ever face in work and life: how to know when to keep going at something and when to know it's time to stop or pivot. So this isn't just about quitting something the moment it gets hard. Most worthwhile things that you are going to do will be really, really hard at some point. It's about recognizing the difference between a temporary rough patch, a little glitch, and a genuine dead end. Today, I'm going to share a framework that I've used, which is inspired in part by Seth Godin's book, The Dip. Seth's book is honestly one of my absolute favorites, and I cannot recommend it enough. I swear I have read this book about 10 times. It has got me out of so many tricky situations where I've not been sure, should I stick with this or should I move on? So I'm going to tell you how I've applied principles from Seth's book and other places to help me in my own career, in my own life. And I'm going to give you some practical steps to help you figure this out for yourself. So as always, let's take a personal story to work through together, because I feel like tangible advice always helps. So towards the end of last year, I was feeling completely burned out, like utterly exhausted. I was stressed and honestly, I was not having a good time in work, in my life. Earlier that year, so summer 2024, I'd received the amazing news that I'd passed the all clear mark from cancer. 5 years prior to that, I'd been diagnosed, I'd had an operation, and I got that amazing letter in the post that said I was all clear and I was discharged. Now, naturally, when I got that news, I was stoked. I was so happy. I was very emotional, very overwhelmed. But it also had a different effect I wasn't expecting. And it sort of gave me a little kick up the butt to reevaluate my life. Because when you've gone through something like that, it makes you reconsider what's important. It makes you think, am I living the best life? It's like, I've got a second chance. So am I doing this the right way? Am I living the life that I want to live? And so that shift told me life was about more. I wanted to give back and help people. I wanted to feel like I was contributing to more than just my own project. And I wanted to live my life to the fullest. I wanted to have free time to meet friends for coffee, to go on adventures, and to actually enjoy myself. I didn't want to be burned out. I didn't want to be really stressed. And so over the Christmas break at the end of last year, I spent a lot of time thinking about whether or not it was possible to fix my situation, or whether I needed to make a big change, whether I needed to pivot. I read Seth's book again, because it's always my go-to, and it gave me so much clarity on the situation that I was going through. Effectively, I had two options. I could keep pushing, knowing that as a studio, we probably shipped something, but I would risk exhausting myself to breaking point. I would burn out, my mental health would plummet. and I would regret not living my life authentically because I'd have had to wear a mask. My other option was to pivot and do something else. Now, that decision didn't happen overnight. It took many, many months of pondering. I spent a lot of time over that Christmas period thinking about, is it worth sticking? And I had to get really, really honest about why I wanted to keep going, if I wanted to keep going at all. Was it because the game and the project had real potential? Or was it because I'd invested so much of myself into the company and the project that walking away felt like a failure? In the end, after a lot of soul searching, I decided it was time to pivot. And that is how GothPod Studios and this podcast came to be. So let's talk a little bit more about Seth's book, The Dip, and how to know whether or not you should pivot and do something else. So in The Dip by Seth Godin, he talks about 3 different scenarios, and you'll often find yourself in one of these. The first one, which is what the book's named after, is the dip. Now, that's usually a difficult point where maybe results are slow, maybe your motivation drops, maybe you're just not feeling it, or you're really struggling to get traction. But you know, if you push through it, if you just give it a little bit longer, you can reach a breakthrough. And that dip will then turn up into an incline, and you will rise and you will grow. And maybe there'll be another dip later on, because that's the way life works, right? It's always up and down, up and down. But a dip is when you know, do you know what? This is just a dip, and I'm going to come back the other end and I'm going to go higher. A cul-de-sac is the second one that Seth mentions. And this is a dead end. This is a road with a wall at the end of it. And no matter how much effort you put in, no matter how hard you push, things are not going to go anywhere. And then the final one is a cliff, which is where you keep going and you keep going and you keep going until it or you collapses. Now, the skill and most difficult thing is knowing which one of these you are in at any given moment. A dip is worth pushing through because you know if you push through, you're going to succeed. And sometimes there's failing too early, right? And it's a very fine balance knowing this is really, really hard right now, but if I just stick with it a little bit longer, another month, maybe we'll come through. But the other two, the cul-de-sac and the cliff, they're the warning signs that maybe it is time to pivot. If you're feeling burned out, if you've lost your motivation, if you're not feeling fulfilled, listen to yourself, listen to your intuition, and maybe read Seth's book. So how do we figure out where we are, right? Because I feel like if you know you're at a cliff, that's kind of easy. If you know you're at a dead end, that's also kind of easy. But how do you know if your dip is going to come back up and you're going to do well and you're going to ride that wave for another few months until the next step? Or how do you know if you should stop? Based on Seth's book, based on my experience and all the other articles and books that I've read, we are going to go through 5 key things that you can check to help you figure it out. So number 1, check your metrics. Now that might sound lame if what you're thinking about right now is whether or not you should do a project or a hobby, but if it's a business, think about, are you seeing the traction and the movement towards your goals that you want? Are you seeing audience growth? Are you seeing increased sales? Are you seeing increased engagement? Are you seeing wish list numbers go up? Are you seeing more downloads and more purchases of your game? What is it that is the mark of success for you? Now, every person, every studio, every game will have their own metrics for success. Yes, we all want to sell lots of copies of our games, of course. Yes, we'd all love for it to go absolutely viral on social media. But think about what are the tangible metrics that you know you can actively contribute to, and think about whether or not you are making good progress towards those. If you are finding that your metrics are flatlining or worse, declining, it is time for a really, really long think. Double check whether or not it's the amount of effort or maybe the approach is wrong. But if you're doing everything in the absolute best way you can, you're following the textbook processes for how to get engagement, how to get Steam wish lists and all of that, and you're just not seeing it, maybe that process that you are doing is the wrong one, or it needs refinement. You might be on a dead end for that. So don't always stick with it. Check your metrics, and that will help you know if it's worth sticking with or maybe tweaking it a little bit. The second one is check your energy. So when we start our projects, or we start a new company, or we all get started on a game, we get so excited, don't we? We get really, really, really hyped. We love the vision. We love the art. We love everything about it. And then over time, sometimes that can fade. And I want you to question, do you still feel excited about it, even on the really hard days? If your enthusiasm is gone and you're only showing up out of habit or out of guilt, that's a warning sign. Check your energy. Are you feeling burnt out? Are you feeling exhausted? Are you struggling to get out of bed? If so, that probably isn't a dip unless you've got other things going on in your personal life which are worth factoring in. If you're finding that it's related to your work or your project or your business, have an honest check-in with yourself, because if you stick with something that's exhausting you and depleting your energy, that way lies burnout. And we do not want anybody to go through burnout, because it's the absolute worst. Number 3, I want you to ask yourself the question, if you stopped doing this thing today, what would you lose? And so that's really tricky, right? It could be, do you stop doing your business? Do you stop looking for full-time employment and you're going to go freelance? Do you stop working on this particular iteration of a game and pivot the game design? Do you stop posting on certain social media because you really don't like it and you don't get anything from it? If you stopped it, what would you lose? Now, it could be that you might lose momentum towards your bigger vision, to your goal. So check in with those metrics, check in with the metrics from number 1 and go, if I stop doing this, would it impact those metrics? Or would it be that you could just stop and actually there'd be no impact, or there might be a positive impact because you've just been on a treadmill that's going nowhere? So ask yourself, if you stopped doing that thing, if you stopped it today, what would you lose? Number 4, I want you to imagine the alternative. Think about if you freed up the time, the energy, the headspace, the mental load of this thing, what else could you work on? Again, that could be just one small element of a business or a project, or it could be an entire project. If you freed up that time and energy and overlooked that sunk cost fallacy that often so many of us fall into believing, what could you do? And would that other thing have more potential? So if you're putting, say, I don't know, a lot of energy into a particular social media, but your target audience aren't there, would you be better off putting that energy somewhere else? Because that might have more potential for helping you reach your actual target audience. So think about it. Think about what the alternatives could be that you could work on if you had the time and energy from this thing where you feel like you are potentially in a dip or worse. And then finally, number 5, I want you to get an outside perspective. Now, that could be trusted peers. It could be your colleagues, could be your best mate. It could be a mentor. There are amazing mentors in the games industry. There are plenty of people who will help. Or it could be someone like me, a coach. If you bring in a coach or advisor like myself, what we're going to do is we are going to sit there with you and we are going to look at your business plan, your project, your roadmap, whatever it is you want to look into. And we will sit there and we'll analyze and we'll ask you those questions so that you can come up with the answer yourself. We will sit there and go, are you sure this is the right thing you should be doing? Let's look at your roadmap and make sure you can actually ship this on time. Are you suffering from scope creep? Do you want to pull it back? Do you really need all these 5 features in? Could you just do these 3? Get that outside perspective, because often we are so close to our own ideas. If you run a business, if you are building your own game as a solo indie dev or leading a big studio, those businesses, those projects, they become our babies. We become so, so passionate about them. And it is so, so hard to come at it with a fresh perspective, a fresh pair of eyes, and be really analytical, really critical. So get an outside perspective, speak to a coach, speak to an advisor, speak to someone who's been in the games industry for a long time, and get their input. Because sometimes you just need a reality check. Sometimes you just need someone to sit you down and go, these 3 things are great, but why are you doing this one thing? Could you be doing something better? So I went through all of these steps and reading Seth's book at the end of last year when I was deciding, like, what am I going to do with my life? And in my case, I looked at the metrics. And for me, my personal metrics were, do I enjoy what I do every day? Am I living my life to the full, given I've got a second chance at this, right? Am I doing what fulfills me? I love helping people. I love working with a broad range of people. Am I doing that? I realized I wasn't. My energy was depleted. I was burning out. I was stressed. I wasn't happy. And I realized I wasn't in a dip. I was in a cul-de-sac. And the thing is, if I pushed to the end of that cul-de-sac, there was a cliff, right? There was that mental health cliff of burnout and just feeling terrible and feeling like I'd wasted my time and wasn't living life to the full. So I decided, with the help of Seth's book, with the help of various articles, blogs, and podcasts that I listened to, I freed up my time. I stepped away from my startup. I created Gothbus Studios. I launched this podcast, and that's freed up so many mental resources for me. I love what I do every day now. I'm happier. I'm healthier. I'm not burnt out. And yes, occasionally I will be tired because it is hard work starting up a whole new business. But I at least feel fulfilled, and I feel like I am helping people and I'm contributing to the broader games ecosystem and helping lots of other people through this podcast and through my coaching, not just helping myself and my one project. Now, when I decided to step away, I was worried that I would be seen as a failure. And I don't want to think of myself necessarily as a failure, but I don't see an issue with failing. I think failing is a really useful way to learn. We often learn better by failing, like trying and failing, than we do by success. And, I wasn't a failure for leaving, and you're not a failure if you decide that you're at a cliff or a cul-de-sac or a dead end. That's not failure. That is choosing the right path for you. That is choosing the thing that is going to make you happiest, that's going to make you most likely to succeed. It's choosing the thing that you can see through. It's being smart with your decision. Because we only get one attempt to do life, to launch a game, to start a business, right? Sure, you can start a different one, but this one you're currently in, you only get one chance at that, so do it the right way. So let's summarize this. You should stick with the thing and push and keep pushing if 3 things are true. Number 1, if you still believe in the vision, if you're still passionate about it, if you still absolutely love it and you think it's going to be a success. Number 2, you're seeing progress. Now, that might be really, really, really slow, snail's pace progress, but you're still seeing progress. Graphs are still going up, even if it's just a teeny tiny bit. And number 3, you still have the resources and the energy to keep going. You need all 3 of those. All 3 of those. That's when you know this is probably just a dip and you can get through it and you will be fine. How to know when to pivot, though? How to know when you are at a dead end or worse, approaching a cliff? 3 things to check here. Has your progress stalled? The graphs are not going up, they are flatlining or going down, despite the fact you're doing everything to the best of your knowledge and to your abilities. Is the opportunity cost too high? Are you spending so much time and resources on the wrong thing and the return is not worth it? And finally, is your gut instinct telling you that you are holding on for emotional reasons rather than strategic ones? Quite often, we think with our hearts instead of our heads. And when it's a business or a project, we need to remember to pull ourselves out of that heart mode, even though we do love it and we really care about the things we're doing, and think strategically, think analytically. If you're finding that you're thinking with your heart instead of your head and you're holding on for emotional reasons, check in with yourself, because if you can't think of a logical reason to keep going, then you should definitely pivot. Okay, so I mentioned Seth's book. If you want to go deeper on this, I really recommend reading The Dip by Seth Godin. It's a really short read. It's about an hour and a half to 2 hours to read it. Same for the audiobook, which is on Audible. I often will pop that on and listen to it like it's a podcast, because it's short enough that I can recap and I can go back over it anytime I'm facing one of these decisions. I'm going to pop the link to it in the show notes for you. It'll be an Amazon link. And yeah, that will lead you straight to it. I honestly can't recommend it enough. It's my absolute favorite business book of all time. I also recommend that you should journal those 5 steps I mentioned earlier. It's really, really hard to often think of all these things in the moment and weigh up the pros and cons. So think about things like your metrics, your energy, and so on. Write them all down. And that can help you make the decision much, much clearer. So next time you are working on a project and you're wondering whether or not you should keep going or whether you should walk away, please remember this. If you do walk away, you are not a failure. What you're doing is you're reallocating your energy. You're putting your energy into the thing that matters most and that has the best chance of success. All right, that is all for today. Thank you so much for listening to the Goth Boss podcast. If you found this helpful, please share it with a friend. Subscribe on your favorite platform, like and subscribe. And if you could please leave me a review, that would be absolutely incredible. It really helps more people find the show, and the more people that I can help with this, honestly, that means the world. Even if it just helps one person, that's great. So yeah, please let me know. Please share it with a friend. Until next time, please take care of yourself. Keep building the things that matter to you. Check in with yourself on whether you need to pivot. I will see you next time. Bye.